instance, I used to work in Hollywood before I wrote books. I wasn't very happy. I wasn't very successful. I was out there trying to push myself and get my screenplays sold. Now, I don't do anything. Now they're coming to me, trying to interest me in having my books made into a television series, for instance. And I just stand back and let that happen. I don't push myself at all. I let them all come to me because I feel it's much more powerful front.
Did you think that this would happen in your life where you kind of stepped into your destiny as an author?
No, I mean, you always dream when you're a kid or when you're in your 20s of the things that will happen. I had no way of knowing when I wrote the book because, quite frankly, as you pointed out, it's a bit of a strange bird. It's a bit long. It's a bit dense. And so, it could just have easily flopped like a giant whale on the beach, and we wouldn't be here, and it would sold 10,000 copies. I mean, that was a scenario in my head. So I'm very lucky and very blessed, and I have to remind myself that every day.
There's a video that I watched of you in an interview with a friend of yours. I think it was Shira. And you had shared that you had approximately 80 jobs or over 80 jobs. I don't remember which one.
Yeah.
And how dissatisfied you were. You didn't quite say it like this, but you didn't find your center of gravity there.
Right.
And this was the transition for you to write the 48 Laws of Power. Some people that will read this book will think parts of it are not only wise, but very shrewd. And I'm going to use the word cunning like they use in the I Ching. Parts of it are extremely cunning. But you know what's interesting? Even though you're bringing it out of the closet, it doesn't necessarily mean that all this isn't going on. It's going on, obviously, all over the world. You're the first one, aside from Sun Tzu with The Art of War, and the man who wrote The Craft of Power, and the people that wrote the I Ching. You're the first one that's really bringing all this into the light of day in the modern world.
Well, there's one law, for instance, that people think is very evil, and it's law number 7. And basically it says, get other people to do the work, but always take the credit for it. And I don't deny that it's an evil law, but in fact, it is absolutely a fact of life. It happens every single day. It happens every day in Hollywood. People are always stealing your ideas. But on another level, you watch television and you see Bill O'Reilly or whomever. They're not writing any of the material that they're doing. They've got teams of 20 researchers. All of their wit and wisdom is coming a lot of the times from other people. Jon Stewart's jokes are being written by other people. You don't know who these figures are. There's 10 interns in a room or people, actually writers, being paid. They're never getting credit. And so that's the guise that power has always used throughout the centuries. The president or the leader or the figure on television is giving out this appearance of having all of this knowledge, wisdom, wit, and in fact, a lot of it comes from other people doing the hard, dirty work. And I'm just merely pointing out that when you enter the world, you need to be aware of that. People are going to steal your ideas. They're going to put your name on it. They're going to take the thing that you wrote and erase your name and put theirs on it. And here's what you have to do. You have to first not resent it. You have to know it. You have to be aware of it. And then maybe later on, when you're powerful, you're going to be doing the same thing as well. So I'm getting, people are criticizing me for merely pointing out actually a fact of nature, of power that has been going on for centuries and is still going on. So,
is it a fact of power or is it a fact of the dark side of power?
It is a fact of power because what happens when you reach a position of prominence, you're usually, and this happens if you can be in your 30s, 40s, sometimes in your 20s, the amount of things that you have to do administratively go up and up and up, and you can't be the person doing everything. You can't micromanage every aspect of your business, of your books, of your public appearances. So you need teams of people to help you out. And if you can give the appearance that you're the one in the front doing all of this work, you're everywhere, people see you, it looks very powerful. But if they see you having to do all of the grunt work, it doesn't look very powerful. You look like you're sweating too much. So, Oprah Winfrey is having her new network. She's here and she's there and she's doing all of these things. You're not made aware of the hundreds of people who are slaving behind the scenes so that she can put on this network or put on this show. That's just simply the guise of power. It has to be that way once you reach a position of prominence.
And yet, wouldn't you also say that a lot of the, quote, leadership gurus from Warren Bennis and others that are out there, Peter Drucker, Tom Peters, and others, would probably say that it's better, quote, as a leader to do the opposite, which is to acknowledge all the people that have supported your venture and that have helped you become who you are? That's a different model, isn't it?
Well, there's several things. I mean, and I addressed this in the 33 Strategies of War. There's the internal and the external directions of power. Externally, you're presenting this image to the world of all of these great things that you're able to do on many different fronts. You're a person of power, and there's no need for Jon Stewart to be thanking. I just did this joke, and I want to thank Diane's others who wrote it for me. I mean, it'd be ridiculous. But behind the scenes, internally, your morale can suffer very much if you're the leader always stealing people's ideas. You're never getting credit for them. You're squashing people's creativity. So it's a delicate game that you're playing. And certainly you must learn to keep the morale of your soldiers going, to give them credit, to give them responsibility, to make them feel that they're part of a team. So on that level, I wouldn't disagree with the management gurus, but I would disagree on the public front. I use the metaphor in the book of the great painter Rubens, and Rubens would make, the number of paintings that he produced in a year was astonishing, and people in Europe would believe that this man was insanely productive. Well, if you visited his studio, you would see that there were like 50 people doing the paintings for Rubens, and he was supervising it, but he simply put his name there on it in the end. And it was that illusion of him being everywhere and painting so prolifically that was almost the source of his of his reputation. And yet he had to hide that, because if you knew it, it would all vanish.
That's very interesting. Let's talk about Law 10, because this dovetails on a lot of things. Infection, avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. Can I read your opening judgment?
Mm-hmm.
You can die from someone else's misery. Emotional states are as infectious as diseases. You may feel you are helping the drowning man, but you are only precipitating your own disaster. The unfortunate sometimes draw misfortune on themselves. They will also draw it on you. Associate with the happy and fortunate instead. I totally see the wisdom in this. I totally see the, quote, law of attraction underpinnings, the magnetic field, even in the quantum realm, agreeing with this. And yet, as a philosophy, I can see how someone may say, wow, that's really tough. But explain deeper your side of this.
Well, this is you have to read the law and not just read the paragraph. I'm not criticizing you here, but...
well, I'm just giving that to the audience contextually so they have a feel for the context.
I understand. But the thing is, if you just read that or read the title, which some people do, it seems rather cruel. But if you read the stories in there and you get the context, you understand that actually I'm trying to describe something very real, a terrible problem that has affected a lot of people I know. It happens every single day, and it isn't really cruel at all. And what I'm saying is there are people who suffer misfortune that is completely beyond their control, or they were born into terrible circumstances, and I'm not talking about them at all. They're not to be avoided, they're to be helped. But there is another class of people that I describe very specifically in that chapter, and they are people who draw their misfortune upon themselves. They are incredibly dramatic. They're empty, and they have some sort of deep emptiness inside, and they have to fill it with all of this drama and these problems. They're deeply unhappy people, and they tend to make other people around them unhappy, by just by infection. And